Mike Pattern Traders. Real quick, I wanted to talk to you guys about the indicator and, well, not the indicator, the pivots and high time frames, how they work. A lot of people were short bias when we were at the 29K range, and assuming that we were going to break our range low. It's fine if you have proper risk management, but normally if you're playing strictly off level to level and indicators, you shouldn't be shorting stuff that pivot green. So quickly, I'll go over the indicators first. This isn't going to be a video telling you about levels and whatnot or Fibonacci's and supports and resistance. This is strictly going to be a video talking about the pivots. It's very important to understand the difference between longing resistance, shorting support while we're at a pivot. So BTC on a daily time frame, for example, we had since September, let's put a vertical line here, since September of 2020, we had a green pivot down here, right? And that was the bottom, roughly about 9 or 10K before we did the impulse up to $64,000. The following pivot, all this was like pretty much an uptrend, bull run. The following pivot that took place was when? In April. So April, let's put another vertical line over here, which was the bottom before the 58K top. Put a line here. Let's make it red, so we know what that is. Okay, so now we had another pivot down here. So we had one pivot here, two. Now, what was the third pivot? May. May was a third pivot, which is over here, which led to a 40% move to the top side, and then more consolidation and ranging. Where's the fifth pivot? The fourth pivot, sorry. Right here, which was last week. So, a lot of people, including crypto Twitter, were shorting range low. And they were targeting roughly about $24,000 to $26,000. Some were even targeting 28K, which didn't make any sense to me. If you're shorting 29,000, just to target an extra $1,000 down, that was pretty freaking silly. But at the end of the day, when you see green, let me extend this. Get rid of everything. Get rid of everything. That's it. Okay? That's it. When you see green on the daily, you cannot be in short mode. You want to hedge? Hedge. You want to protect your capital? Protect your capital. But do not be net short when you see green. These are pivots. And especially if you only have 4 from September, you got to give it some weight, right? Now, go to the RSX. So the MSTX, like I said before, the way it works is the PT trend is fastest. RSX is safety, basically mid between MST and PT trend. You're not going to be too early, you're not going to be too late. And then the MSTX is slowest, the stamp, pretty much. That's just the way it works, okay? So we get our pivot here. RSX bottomed out. We have a cross. We had a triangle, and we have green algo, well, the green pivot that changed here. So if you saw the PT trend video, the color change is the most important thing. Let me make this a little bold so you guys can see it. Let's get rid of the histo for a sec. And let's make this a little bit bigger so you can see this too. Okay, so when you change colors from blue to green and from blue to red, that means that the trend is flipping. It doesn't mean you go long or you go short. It just says the trend is about to flip. Be careful if you're in the opposite direction. So the way I use the PT trend with the RSX is I will front run the RSX once I get the color change. Like for example, we were green here, blue to green, and then we went back to blue. Right there. And then again, we flipped from blue to green over there. So technically speaking, look what the PT trend did. This was your bottom. This was where the RSX pretty much bottomed out. Now go to the top side. This is exactly where we touched the fib level on the pivot down here, the 20 mark, right? Again, we came down here, touched it on the 20 mark, we pivoted, right? 23 mark, I think it's 23, 24 mark, we pivoted, right? So again, over here we pivoted, and then we had the bottom of COVID. So when I speak in Discord and I tell you guys be careful, we have a high time frame pivot, I don't know why you would want to watch the 4 hour. There's no reason to watch the 4 hour, right? It doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just says that you're going against probability. Because this could have easily not played out. This could have easily just turned green, and then this, and then went up, right? But odds of that happening are going to be slim. So you could be short biased, but you're going against the probability. The way it works is if I have a high time frame pivot like this or like this, probability is in favor of the bulls, right? If I have a let's put low band. If I have a short pivot going on up here, right? 1, 2, 3 up here. That means probabilities with the short with the bears, right? So it's the same thing with the bull side. You don't need to be looking at the 4 hour and be glued to it. Anyone that lost money shorting a daily pivot means that they did not zoom out. They were so concentrated on the lower time frames. Go to the weekly real quick. I'll show you guys. Look at the weekly. The weekly bottomed out over here, man. Weekly bottoms out over here, bottomed out over here, bottomed out over here. So you literally are shorting a weekly fucking bottom. Does that mean that this is the bottom and we're going to just go to all-time highs? Absolutely not. But it did its job. It gave us a 40% move. A daily pivot will give you at least a 30 to 40% move. So it's over, to me, personally. It's done. It's good enough. Now, what am I looking for? Okay, so I got my weekly pivot, which is still an open candle, obviously, because if this thing nukes throughout the week, it's going to... If this thing comes down, this is going to probably do something like this, right? But at least I got my weekly cross. My weekly cross, similar to how we got it over here, how we got it over here, how we got it over here, signifies that the first move is over with. Now, what are we expecting? We're expecting a higher low. I personally want a higher low. I'm going to go to my 12 hour, and I'm going to wait now personally for the 12 hour to repivot back down. You see how we pivoted here? Bear pivot, bear pivot, bear pivot, where RSX is about to do a bear pivot as well. The last one that we had was April, which was the top. So we have a PT trend turning red over here with a red arrow. More likely than not, once this thing crosses, it's probably going to give us a pretty decent dump down to at least 34, 35K, depending on where it comes from. So when you hear pivots, guys, all it is just signifying that we are at levels that should not be ignored, and you need to pay attention to them. You cannot be against a pivot unless you're properly hedged. You could short all you want. I'm not going to tell you not to short, but be hedged. Protect your capital because you're going against the probability. Again, trading isn't being right or wrong, right? It's about basically coming up with a thesis telling you that there's a 60% chance that this is going to play out. It's all probability. So if the indicators are telling you that the probability that this is bullish are 70%, why would you go against it? That's all I'm saying. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's going to give you enough of a conviction that's going to tell you, be careful, you're going against probability. That's all. So high time frame pivots are beautiful. Let's just say that they have at least bare minimum an 80% success rate. Do they always work? No, but they have a really solid success rate, and that's how I actually play this whole range over here. Every time we had a pivot, I just longed. I didn't even care. I just longed. I went pretty heavy. I went pretty hard. I caught that. This one was short-lived, obviously. I wasn't even able to take all the profit out because I went right back down. So I only took out like 40 or 50% here, and then the rest got stopped out of break even, unfortunately. A lot of my altcoins stopped out of break even. But if you think about it from a level to level perspective, this is your range still, man. So I don't think this pump is done at all. We pivoted, man. So I think that we're going to end up doing something along the lines of go up, come down, go up, and then figure something out afterwards, right? This still, in my eyes, is going to be one massive range that shouldn't get resolved until like probably fall. Now, if we do happen to break the low over here, we know what we're targeting, right? We've all experienced this, the previous stream videos, that we're looking at first level of interest, these two VWAPs over here. Let's make this green, which is between the weekly at 23.9 and the monthly, which is at 21.9. And then if we lose that level, most likely it's going right down here at the quarterly. Because again, don't forget, BTC loves to go from quarter to quarter, right? So this is the only thing I'm watching, and I don't complicate it. I don't complicate it. And the reason why I have not lost trades in this range is because I'm not trading. I'm doing minimal trades, high time frame only. I don't go under the 12 hour for the life of me. I don't even know how I could trade the 4 hour. If look at this chop, look how many times the 4 hour has pivoted. The 4 hour pivots so many times, and sometimes, yeah, it'll give you a nice little bounce, but you have to be in and out. I don't have time for that, to be in and out. I don't care for that. Look, this pivoted, and this thing still was going down. So, it's not worth it for me at all. It's not. So I just look at the high time frame. Now I'm expecting another high time frame retest, unfortunately for me, because I'm still long bias, right? Open up your trend. Get rid of the signal for a second. Let me show you something. Just a trend, all right? Trend. Look at the 7 hour or whatever time frame you want. 7 hour, 12 hour. I like the 7 hour. You could do the 10 hour. I don't care. Just give you an example. Do the 4 hour. That's what makes you feel better. All right, 4 hour, right? So we had a bottom of the trend over here. That was the bottom. We had a top over here. That was the top. Then we had another bottom over here. That was the bottom. Now we have another top over here. This is probably going to be a top, right? And come back down, and then hopefully this thing does a little loop. That'll be your main short. It'll do something like this or something like this. That'll be your short if there's a div in play, and then you could target 34, 35K. Give or take around there. That's how I'm playing it. That's how I play the pivots. Do I look at levels? You could literally zoom out, identify. I know that Barry and a lot of people identify the weekly levels. Like that's a weekly level. 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 So like you could sit here and fucking write a million weekly levels, but at the end of the day, dude, like there's, you know, I don't really care for them. I'm just playing VWAP to VWAP, right? So the proper way to do it is to identify your levels, the way Ermos and Barry does it. That's the correct way to do it. Identify your 3-day, your weekly. It's very smart, but I haven't found that I don't have the patience to do that, right? So I'm only going to play the high time frame, pivots, VWAP to VWAP. But the proper way is to identify your levels. You want to identify your supports and resistances. You want to identify the weekly, the 3-day, most importantly, the weekly. Sometimes the daily levels are very reactive as well. Like you have a daily. Look at this. Let me show you this. Look at this daily level, right? Right there. Look, hit it to the T. Like that's some serious confluence. You had a daily level there, hit it straight to the T and then reject it. So if somebody had proper levels identified, they would have been in that short, right? So it's very important to identify your levels. I personally do not identify my levels. I just play VWAP to VWAP. So what am I expecting oscillator wise? So you have a previous weekly VWAP here. Let's make this dashed here, and then we have another one over here. These are the only two levels that you have pending until you get to the downside that have been tapped. This whole cluster has been a big void. I'm telling you, it's going to get filled. You're going to fill this. You do not fill this. You're going to fill this. Maybe not now, but you're going to come down and fill this, right? So the only areas that I'm looking at right now, VWAP based, are these two levels. Make this red. Between $44,000 and $43,000. A lot of confluence up here. And on the downside, I'm looking at 35.5 to 34.26. I don't think we're going to get down here yet. I don't, because we did an SR flip. So if you go to your 12 hour and put on your Fibonacci level, put a 0.5 across the whole order block. Yeah, see, we tapped it. That's the SR flip right here, right? So we have resistance, we flipped it, we tested it, and now we're either gonna chop around or we're gonna deviate it from the bottom side and then go back up. I'm not bearish yet. Do we have a dump brewing? Absolutely, guys. I'm gonna tell you right now, so you guys can understand how serious this upcoming dump is. This is your weekly. And this is your buy zone down here, right? As you guys know, I always like to paint my buy zone. Make this green, right? It's your buy zone. It's got to be under 25, right? Under 25. Zoom out, put log on. All right, every single time we go down here, we bounce hard, right? So we're most definitely, if we go up, we're going to come right back down. And that's going to be a 50 or 60% dump when it comes from wherever we are. So we have one more massive dump brewing, like legit. Be very careful. This is not going to all-time highs unless obviously we get fundamentally driven news, unless something really good happens. I don't know, whatever. I'm not going to tell you. I'm just basically telling you what the oscillators are telling me at the time being. So I'm playing it as if this is what my my game plan is. Something along the lines of this. I will short and I will hedge up here at 44,000, which is the quarterly and monthly VWAP. And then I want to see most definitely my PT trend at that point giving me at least a 4 or 5 hour bear div, right? I want to see a bear div over here. That'll be beautiful on the 4 hour, and call it a day. That's it. That's what I'm playing. 12 hour. The daily has not turned red yet. Just be careful. Once the daily turns red, you have to be a little cautious, guys. 12 hour probably is red right now. Yeah, 12 hour is red with a triangle. Be careful. I think the 18 hour or the 16 hour had the double ones. Which one? Someone had the double ones. There you go. 18 hour has a double one. And the reason why I use the 18 hour is because I like to split between the daily and the 3 hour, the increments, because I play the 3 and the 5 a lot, right? So 9 and 9. I mean, that's pretty much it, guys. You know, so just be careful when you see these little algo fires on the top. They're serious. You cannot ignore them. Right? Look at them. You can't ignore them. They literally have caught almost every top. These red spots. Be very, very cautious, and especially if your trend is going down, that means that this is all distributive. I was not aware of this, by the way. I figured this out afterwards. So now I'm trying to help you guys not make the same mistake I did. So as the price was going lower, the trend is going up, right? So this has been bull diving this whole time. That's why I'm pretty confident that we're gonna go further to the top side. That's pretty much how I play my pivots. Okay, look how well it respects the bottom. Once it touches it, boom, 18, boom, like literally V bottom, boom, V, boom, right? It's beautiful. 18 hours, beautiful. I know Ermos uses it as well. So real quick, just to tell you guys one more time what I'm looking at. When you get a high time frame pivot, 2-day or a 3-day, I'll put that on, or a 3-day, right? Do not ignore it. Do not be short biased. Anytime you see green, try to avoid the shorts. It doesn't mean it's going to work 100%. It just tells you that you're going against probability. That's all I'm saying. Okay? That's what a high time frame pivot. That's why when I DM'd everybody and told everybody, I'm not sure I DM when I announced to everybody, guys, you're underestimating the move when we were down here, was because I literally saw the pivot. Like, this is a serious maneuver to the top side. So let's see where this crops out and take it from there. Any questions, feel free to DM me. I'll post this in the chat as well. But this is how I play my high time frame pivots. And again, if there's chop, like the way you have chop over here, just zoom out and just play the bottom pivots. You don't need to play the 4 hour or the 12 hour. You don't need to play it. Just zoom out. Cheers, guys.